morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to the second episode of our webinar series, Digital Transformation in a New Work Era, Managing Opportunities and Risks, hosted by the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica in association with UNESCO's Information for All program, IFAP. My name is Cordel Green, and it is my privilege to introduce today's webinar, which will explore the new approaches to work and the digital environment. We know what is going on. Unemployment levels are on the rise as businesses close and some downsize. But it is also the case that COVID-19 will be the catalyst for new opportunities. So we're here today to build on the last webinar by talking about those opportunities and doing a deeper dive into the risks. Before introducing today's webinar, just a few housekeeping information. There will be two presentations, after which the presenters have agreed to stay on for an additional 30 minutes to answer your questions, and we thank them very much for doing that. So please go ahead, post your questions in the feed and use the social media handles displayed on the screen if you wish to direct your question to a specific presenter. Without further ado, I am very much pleased to introduce Kadia Francis, who is a blogger, podcaster, self-taught digital brand development strategist. She's a content developer, and she lives by the motto, the future of business is digital. And we welcome as well Trevor Forrest. He's the CEO and founder of 876 Solutions. For over 22 years, Trevor has been a sought-after expert in the ICT industry, ranging from advanced network systems design, network security, web design and development, as well as consulting on e-commerce, internet security, and internet strategies. Over to you, Kadia.
Hi guys, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on what time you are watching this. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you to the Broadcast Commission for having me here. So let's just go straight into it and talk about what are the companies, what are the categories of companies that actually have seen success during the COVID period and will continue to reap the benefits of that success post-COVID. So the train of thought is, if you are providing comfort, convenience, or necessity, then you should be fine. But it really depends on what in those categories you're providing, whether it's a service or whether it's a product. And we're going to then, in the next slide, and I'll just go to that now, look at the top 5 industries, and you'll see that they all fall within these 3 categories for the most part, that have really boomed during COVID and will continue to do so afterwards. And the first one is entertainment, and I try as best as possible to use the local example so it's more relatable to you, right? But you guys have heard of Versus, I'm sure. If you're anywhere in the online space, you have heard of Versus, which is a collaboration between Timbaland and this other music producer whose name is eluding me right now. But they've come together, and what they've done is they've been doing Instagram concerts pretty much, where they're pitting one artist against another and they're playing their hits and people are coming on and having a good time. Food and delivery, and we're seeing where our restaurants have stepped up to the plate, and our other food based companies have also stepped up to the plate, offering delivery services for people. Health and wellness is another industry that has taken off. MD Link has introduced its app version, and it was very timely. Now, I don't know if it was because of COVID why it came out, but certainly it became more noticeable to a lot of us post the pandemic. And what it is what we call this telemedicine, where you can get a doctor on the phone. So it's either through a live chat with a video, or it's a text-based kind of thing. And MD offers you several ways of getting in touch with a medical professional. And it could be for several different things. It could be because of an injury, but on the other hand, it's also, you can also get through to therapists as well. And on the other side, we have gyms. Our local gyms have also stepped up to the plate, and what they've done is they've turned to platforms like YouTube, Instagram Live, Facebook Live to continue training sessions. Next industry, online shopping. I was talking about Price Smart earlier, and these are really our grocers, especially I'm talking about, because online shopping was always a thing. E-commerce is a thing, but our grocers, all of them, we're not offering delivery service to your home. It was really you had to come in and shop and take away. But since the pandemic, they have been offering very diverse kinds of service. Like for instance, Select Grocers offers a curbside pickup where you can order online and you can like literally drive up to the store and get your thing delivered to your car window. You pay them or you pay online and you go about your business. Education is another industry. Well, Edufocal has been around for a number of years offering e-learning services. And what you'll find is that private entities like national and government agencies have been using Edufocal's platform to take learning online. So the child is not missing out too much in terms of their education. Now, technology is another industry that has fared very well. In fact, technology is almost as if technology sits above everything, lording over us, looking down on us, because a lot of what drives economies these days, a lot of what drives earning power is technology. Technology touches and concerns just about every single facets and areas of our lives, whether directly or indirectly. But what I'm particularly pointing out is the innovations in technology that have taken place in a relatively short period of time since the pandemic came about. And we're looking here at Yannick, Wallen Bryan, and Lauren Peart, and they've done several things. So on the left, they have created 3D masks for our frontline responders. So now let's start. So those are the industries, right? The overall industries. Let's look at some specifics now. And in that regard, we're going to explore the gig economy. And by gig economy, I really mean the freelancing gig economy, because you can be involved in these industries indirectly as well as directly. And that's kind of where the gig economy comes in. So what's the meaning of this? Gig economy is a free market system in which temporary positions are common, and organizations or companies or other individuals hire independent or freelance workers for short-term commitments. So let's look at top 10 gig industries that you should be exploring to find opportunities. So the first one is online coaching and tutoring, and that's something I do as well. So I offer workshops or webinars to persons who want to learn SEO, who wants to learn how to sell online, who wants to learn about social media. That's a service that I offer for myself. That's a business that I created for myself in the digital space. I don't have a storefront, a brick and mortar. I operate on Instagram. I have a little website that I put up a little pretty thing, and I tell you a little pretty thing about myself, and I explain the services that I offer, and I do speaking engagements here and there, and I build up my brand reputation and my brand authority, and you now become aware of me, and now I am teaching you how to do things online. So you have to look at what are the skills that I actually have that people want to learn. And believe me, no matter what you're thinking, somebody else wants to learn how to do it. The second industry is developers. So whether you're a software developer, app developer, front end, back end, coder, a lot of businesses are now turning to the digital space to survive for the most part. But they're also realizing that there's so much you can do in that space. You can consistently engage your customers. You can find qualified leads online. You can increase your sales online. But you actually have to have a presence. But what digital platforms are we going to expand on? It's part of our digital transformation, but what platforms are we going to go on? So this is where your developer may come in. You'll notice that our banks, our local banks, most of them have an app. So NCB have their app, Scotia have their app, First Global have their app. An app developer created this. Somebody who understands software, how to create software, how to code, actually developed that. And more companies are going to be looking at either developing their own digital platform, whether it's a website or whether it's an app or some kind of other software, whether it's because you are trying to, some ERP software, you're trying to link your front office with your back office or whatever, it doesn't matter. You need a developer, somebody with an understanding of coding and software to help you get that done. So there's a high demand for persons with that kind of skill set right now. The next industry is virtual assisting. Now, virtual assisting, it was slow go in Jamaica. It's not something that we really jumped on real quick. I thought it would have taken off during the whole conversation about the flexi work week kind of thing, but that didn't really take off. But you have Jamaicans who are actually businesses offering virtual assisting services, although the majority of the people they service are outside of the borders. And that's another amazing thing about the digital space. Your audience, your target group, your target market doesn't have to be local. You can be in Jamaica here and offering that service to somebody in Japan, somebody in Australia, somebody in the States. You're not limited by borders online, by geographical borders online, and something that I really want you guys to understand. So say you're a secretary and you got laid off. What are the skills that you had as a secretary? So you know how to schedule meetings, you know how to take notes, you know how to write reports. You can actually offer services, report writing, meeting scheduling, or organizing, or maybe customer service taking calls, or you can be a part of a customer support team and that has been outsourced. The next industry is social media, and people think social media as an industry. It actually is. If you look at somebody like me, a digital strategist, a content developer, what do? So I help you plan out your digital strategy, but I also help you create content for the social media space. And what you'll find is that there's so many new and emerging careers coming out of just social media. Now, social media isn't when we talk about digital platforms, we tend to only think social media. Social media is only one part of digital platform, or one kind of digital platforms. However, it's a huge cottage industry, you can call it, where different emerging career fields have come out of. So you have a social media manager, you have a content developer, you have a digital marketer, you have somebody who is good at hashtag and they're offering their services to write your captions and do your hashtags. You have people who are good at doing videos, so they can create YouTube videos for you. It includes graphic designers, so persons who want to create them thumbnail for YouTube videos or want to create their graphics for social media. It involves, creates and pulls in so many other types of career and fields that you can actually get involved in and offer your services in that area. So one of my personal predictions is that influencer marketing is going to actually become a thing in Jamaica. Now, you would have heard about influencers before. Some multi-million brands that you would have heard of now, and I'm going to throw out a name and you can tell me if you've heard of it. Jackie Aina, who is a massive YouTuber with 3.5 million YouTube followers, and all she does is makeup. She does makeup. She talks about topical issues or issues that are affecting her community, and people absolutely love her. And because of the fact that she's been able to generate such a large following on YouTube, what happens? Advertisers are now coming in. So she's earning revenue from YouTube advertising, which we're going to talk about shortly, from YouTube advertising, but she's also earning revenue from persons who say, you know, I have this lipstick and I think it will look really nice on you. So we're going to send you it for free. I want you to do a video and review it. Review videos are huge online. So these are some of the ways that you can actually get involved. When we start talking about YouTube, I'm going to go a little bit further in terms of review videos. The next industry, content development. And I was saying that before. Guys, everything you see online is content. Every single thing you see online, whether it's a podcast, audio, video, whether it's a picture, whether it's a blog post, it's all content. Now, this can be a foreign phrase to a lot of businesses, especially more established, more legacy businesses in Jamaica who never really considered the digital space. And now they're going, oh my God, we have to get there. So how do we get into the digital space? Who is going to be creating the content? Do we have the equipment to create the content? This is where you come in. If you're a videographer and you already have your equipment as a videographer, you can help them create their own content. Whether you're going to go and shot a video for them, or if you are a photographer and you want some ways to earn money, think of creating stock photos. What are stock photos? These are images that content developers like myself or other persons use. Writing is also going to be very big, because if you've noticed through this whole pandemic, we've really turned to social platforms for information, and that was before the pandemic. It's because it's become so natural to us. Social media has become like second nature to us. We're always on there, so it's become a source of news for us. But also blogs have become a source of information and news for us. And what you'll find is that even more corporate kind of web platforms are incorporating blogs, because the one thing that a blog can do for you more than probably anything else online is help you improve your SEO, which is your search engine optimization. And that simply means it makes it easier for people to find you online. So if you would come to me, I would probably recommend, whether you're a company or otherwise, that you have a blog on your website. But they're going to need content for the blog. So they're going to need somebody who can write blog posts for them. They're going to need somebody who can research certain topics for them. So that's where your writing skills can come in. So transcribing, whether it's notes, transcribing meeting notes from companies. You can be what we call a rapporteur. A rapporteur is somebody who goes into a meeting, takes the notes, transcribes the notes, and then send a report back. So you could think of rapporteur services as well. But one of the underpinning skill there is your writing. You have to have very strong writing skills. All right. And there are several apps that you can use to help you with that, like Otter and other apps that are really good at transcribing the Jamaican accent. I find it's about 85% accurate. And this is not a plug, but just a pro tip I'm giving you guys just in case you're starting that. Look into Otter. You can upload the audio, it transcribes for you, and all you have to do is go in and edit. And you can, and when you're offering these services, guys, you can use these other apps, and a lot of them are free to help you boost your service offerings and your service output. Okay. The other industry is video or audio editing, which is what I said earlier. There's a particular Jamaican here. His name is Paul Stennett. He's on Instagram. What does Paul do? All Paul does is edit podcasts. And most of Paul's customer base is in North America. And what they do is they record a podcast, they send it to him, they send the raw audio to him, and he edits and he does the production, and he uploads it to their RSS feed. And he makes a decent living doing that. Being a video editor, especially, and I can really talk about podcasting because I'm in that field, you're looking at anywhere between $700 to about $900 per month for one client, depending on how many podcasts they're producing per month and the length of the podcast as well. That particular skill is really crucial in the digital space. Video and audio editing, very, very crucial. And it's one of the higher earners in the digital space as well. The more technical the skill is kind of the higher you move up in terms of the earning bracket. And the big kahuna, e-commerce. E-commerce is absolutely huge. And let me explain how huge it is. Now, we have what we call quarters, or not we? Businesses have what they call quarters. So they talk about their first quarter earnings or their second quarter earnings. Platforms like Amazon and Walmart are reporting that they are now experiencing fourth quarter earnings, and fourth quarter is usually Christmas season. And you know that everybody earns more during Christmas season, right? Now they're actually experiencing fourth quarter earnings because of Corona. Why? Everybody is now going online to shop. But what if you are a seller on the Amazon platform, or a seller on a Cool Market platform? Cool Market is one of our local e-commerce spaces. Now NCB has come out with Q Mall. What if you're a seller on NCB? They've been promoting that hard. There's JA deals and shopping JA. There are actually several local e-commerce spaces and online shopping spaces that you can get involved in. And you don't have to be making your own products or services either. You could be selling somebody else's products and services. Because can I tell you that one of Amazon's biggest seller globally is a Jamaican by the name of Barrington McIntosh. He lives in Mandeville with his wife. They're a husband and wife team that Amazon flies out twice a year to teach people in the States and around the United States how to get the same level of success that they have seen with selling. Amazing, isn't it? We are not on their preferred sellers list, but a Jamaican is who they turn to teach other people who are on their sellers list how to sell. That is amazing. All right, so the other category is digital marketing, and I separated that out because there's some kind of specialty that is involved. So say you're a marketer, or you're trained in marketing, you have your degree in marketing that it costs you an arm and a leg to get. Don't just sit on that degree now. This is the time that you actually need to use your training. So you can, again, remember earlier I was talking about social media campaigns. It doesn't just have to be social media. It could be a Google campaign that you are creating for companies and businesses who there's all this mad rush to get online and people want to get their things in front of people. It's kind of hard now to build up an organic reach, what we call organic reach or natural reach, because you're only just coming to the space. But you want to close that gap in terms of turnaround time to get in front of people and build up your brand. You could think about advertising, and this is where your digital marketer comes in, because they can help you plan out your strategy and they can help you execute that strategy. So I kind of wanted to separate it out as an industry in and of itself. Oh, consulting, there's another one. Consulting. So say for instance somebody call me and go, listen, I have a strategy, my strategy is not working, I need your help to build out my strategy. I can offer my consulting services. The one thing I want to mention, you see all of these things that we talk about here, this is all well and good, but you have to start talking. And by talking, I mean building up your brand in the digital space. Because if we're talking about economy, we're talking about personal brands. Because you are an independent person, you're not working for a company. So you have to think about starting to build out your personal brand online. And what do I mean? Putting yourself out there and telling people who you are, screaming it from the rooftop on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, saying, listen, I am here, I can do this thing, let me show you, I can offer you this, I can offer you that. Put together your little service packages together, put a little price on it, and start pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. That's kind of where I'm a good segue to get to where I want to go now, which is where to find or create these opportunities for yourself online. So search engines is where you can go and search for certain information. So say for instance, you are searching for video editing jobs or content development jobs. You literally go to Google and type in content development jobs. More than likely, you're going to see a site named monster.com pop up. Monster is a very well established recruitment site. You can probably browse through and see what's available there. Marketplaces, and I would have talked about Amazon or Etsy or even Shopify. You can Shopify, there's no issue in terms of preferred country with Shopify. You can literally set up your Shopify store and start selling. The only problem that you may run into is the online payment options are limited in Jamaica, but of course there's always a girl for that, not the space to talk about it now. But these are some of the major platforms, marketplaces online where you can sell your products on. freelancing, and some of you would have probably heard of these. Fiverr, Upwork, and Freelancer is three of the most established online spaces for gig workers. Now, the issue you may run into on these spaces is that it takes a while for you to build up. So they operate on a rating system. So the more positive feedback you've had from people you work with is the higher your rating, and the higher you rate is the more you can ask for your services. So you may find that you have to get in on the low end, and it does take you a while to work your way up. But again, if it's another stream of income, then you have a little bit more leeway to work your way up there. Social media, and I would have talked about this earlier. Social media is also somewhere where you can create your own opportunities, and you can find opportunities for work, and depending on the social media platform that you're on. But I want to really focus on LinkedIn. I call LinkedIn the networkers network. Why? Because you're more likely going to find the business community on LinkedIn. The other platform is portfolio. So you're an artist, you're a designer, you're a developer. There are different spaces that you can go on. Dribble, Behance, RTR 99 Designs, where you can create an online portfolio, again attracting people to your space or to your platform, so they can see what it is that you can do. Because the other thing in the tech and digital spaces, it's not so much having an academic qualification, it's more show and tell. Can you do this thing? Can you code? Can you create a piece of code that can do X, Y, and Z? Yes, show me. And these are spaces that you can show off your technical skills on. Crowdfunding, and this is a peculiar one, and I intentionally mentioned crowdfunding because in this day and age, in the digital space, people will pay you to create the things that they want, whether it's content, whether it's a piece of software, whether it's a new type of technology, whether it's a new shoes that allow you to walk on air, whatever. People actually pay you to create these things or give you seed funding to create these things. So if you have an idea for a startup, you can go to an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter and solicit seed funding for it. But what if you're creative and you're making content? People will actually pay you to create a certain kind of content, or people will support you so you can keep creating the kind of content that they want to see. So that's what Patreon is for. So these are some other platforms that you may not have thought about, but there are opportunities there as well. So say, for instance, you want to do online tutoring, or you want to train people online. You can use these platforms. Teachable, Skillshare, and Thinkific are platforms that you can create courses on, and you can teach people how to do things. So it could be video courses that you're creating, or you're writing course material and you're putting it out there, and people can access it, and they will actually pay you for that particular course. So these are some of the platforms that I really want you to go and explore. Look at them, see what they're about, create a little profile, and start. You have this thing what they call analysis paralysis, where you're sitting there going, but if this, then this, but if it, just start. Go on, build out your social media platform, start taking social media a little bit more seriously. Now you're now thinking business, you're now thinking branding. Build out your platform, and let's get going. All right, thank you guys so much. I hope you would have learned a whole lot, and I will be in the comment section if you have any questions that you want to ask. All right, thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Kadia. You're definitely a prototype, self-taught. That was quite a lot, and we are most grateful to you.
Sure.
The thing about this presentation, Trevor, Forrest, is that it is natural for some people, but it is scary for others. This talk about online, the online space, digital work, a lot of it resting on the internet, and we would want you to help us to allay those fears. The people who are very much interested in what they have heard, very much motivated about what they have heard, but now are completely confused as to how to move into that space, how to take the next step, and what are the pitfalls. And I know you'll be able to help us. So it's showtime for you, Trevor.
Thanks a lot, Cordel. So what I want to do is talk about some of these online threats generally, and then I'm going to focus on ones that I feel most affect those of us who are working online or looking for work online, and then I'm going to kind of go into how you can protect yourself. So there are a number of different current online threats. Denial of service attacks, where sites or online spaces are attacked so that those who would wish to use them cannot get to them. The more popular attacks here: viruses, malware, ransomware. I will explain these shortly. You have password attacks, phishing attacks, waterhole attacks, and some of these descriptions are almost comical. Yeah. You have drive-by attacks, and this is drive-by in the digital space, not drive-by in the actual drive-by shooting case. You have zero-day exploits. You have what they call man-in-the-middle attacks, and you have a new one, and I'm going to make a special effort to speak about this one, called a man-in-the-browser attack. And these are the different kinds of online threats that you need to be aware of, because a lot of times these are happening when you don't know they're happening. So let's talk about some of the key threats that I feel are important to those of us who are trying to function online. So first, we have viruses, malware, and ransomware attacks. Now, what these look like are, we have nefarious characters out there like Dr. Evil, and what these players try to do is they try to entice you into opening emails, clicking on links that deliver software to your machines, your devices, and those software will actually start to use your information in furtherance of certain types of activity. Viruses are meant to prevent your machines from working. And the wider category of viruses are malware, which again are designed to either stop your machine from working, slow your machine down, stop your machine from working in some instances. But you're also faced with malware that is designed to send information to databases or websites of attackers. And in doing so, they are able to now almost imitate you, because they have information that is on your machine. So they can almost be you. And this is facilitated by the fact that digital information is extremely mobile. And it's very portable, so that they can, in effect, take everything from your machine and put it on their systems, and then start to use that information to perpetrate acts and activities as if they were you. Ransomware is where malicious software is based on your machine that actually takes all of your information and encrypts it or scrambles it, and then demands payment from you, hence the name ransomware, to get your information back. And sometimes even when you make payment, you don't get the information back, right? So these types of malicious programs are used to prevent you from doing or using your devices and getting your work done. So you have to be very aware of these kinds of attacks and how they manifest themselves on your machine. Next one is passwords. Now, when you go online and you go to any one of these sites where you're looking for jobs and you have to sign up, one of the things you're almost always asked to do is to enter a password. And you may store passwords on your machine, or you may store passwords on those sites. And one of the things that hackers always try to do is to find out what your passwords are, whether it be on your machine or on the services that you use. And they do this in a number of ways. One of the ways is called a brute force attack, where what they do is they simply have a very big dictionary of passwords that people tend to use. And they simply attack sites by feeding those sites all these different passwords with different usernames and an attempt to guess your credentials and then gain access to your account. They've gotten more sophisticated brute force attacks now, where they're using artificial intelligence to do this, and it's way more efficient than the traditional ways of doing it. Another a newer type of password attacks is something called credential stuffing, where they're very clever in how they perpetrate these attacks. The whole idea is, because you have so much activity online and you go to so many different sites, the chances are and because we are notoriously lazy as human beings, you tend to use the same credentials on numerous sites, because it's very hard to remember complicated passwords on 50 sites. So what tends to happen is you use the same credentials on numerous sites. And what credential stuffing does is it's a game of numbers that says, okay, I'm going to take a set of credentials that I know and just run them across a number of sites and see which one comes back with a hit. More popular attack these days, very popular. In fact, since COVID became known around December, January, phishing and spear phishing attacks have increased over 600%. And the reason for that is because it preys upon the normal activities of people who are using email or functioning online. And how these attacks work is the attackers simply send you an email that looks fairly harmless with an attachment that looks legitimate. And if you're not careful, or if you don't have a sharp eye, you will assume the email is legitimate. It may come from an email address that appears to be someone that you know, with a legitimate attachment that looks like something that you are expecting. And you click on the email, you open it, and you open the attachment. And that attachment, it could be in the form of a Word document, a PDF, or even an image, then delivers some malicious software at your machine. And that software is designed now to gather information from your machine, but also if you're connected to a network, that software will go out to that network and start to gather information about those machines. In fact, it will gather information about servers and the information on servers and the databases that may exist on those servers, and steal that data. So once it finds that info, it then sends that info back to the creator of that malicious code. The watering hole attack is interesting because this attack targets users in a very interesting way. What the attackers do here is they monitor popular sites and they see how people function on these sites. So Facebook, Twitter, shopping sites, Amazon, all of those job seeker sites that, you know, Elance, Freelance, Indeed, Monster.com, all of those, because these are sites that are high traffic and people go to these sites to do business and to find jobs. What the attackers do is they monitor use of these sites and how people use these sites. And then what they do is they create malicious software and inject it on those sites. And once you go to those sites and do particular operations, then what happens is that malicious software is then sent and downloaded to your machine many times without you even knowing. So and that's why it's called a watering hole, because they're going and attacking places that many people go and then delivering their malicious payload based on the fact that you go to these sites quite often. This one, and I make special mention of this one because it is new and it is especially scary. The man in the browser attack. Now, this is something that when I describe it to people, they're terrified because of what it does. Now, a man in the browser attack is on the fact that you're doing stuff online using a browser. And many people use browsers and download what's called extensions to their browser, add functionality to their browser, or if you use Chrome or if you use Firefox or Internet Explorer, there are these little nice, convenient little tools that you can add as extensions to your browser. And a lot of times, they're neat tools, but you don't know their origin. Now, what the man in the browser attack does is uses the extensions that you download to your browser to trigger a nefarious act. And in most cases, it does this for banking transactions. And the way it does this is very scary. Let's say you went to your online bank and you said, look, I want to do a transfer of $5. And you go in and you log into your bank's website and you go into the transaction page and you say, transfer $5. What the man in the browser attack does is it then presents you with a page that looks exactly like what you are used to seeing, but it is fake. And all of the activity on that page resembles the transaction that you actually are trying to make. Behind the scenes, and I mean, when I say it resembles it, when you're asked for your password, when you're even asked for your security token, all of these things are presented to you. A fake screen, which the man in the browser attacker then sends to your bank. But what they do is they change the amount of money that you're requesting. Now, while all of this is going on, you're still seeing your legitimate request, but the bank is seeing something else. And what the bank is seeing looks very legitimate because it's coming from you, it's coming from your session. And what happens is you request $5, but the malicious code requests 500. What it does is it sends you back a message that says, you got your $5, they'll even transfer it for you. But in the background, it takes the difference of the total 500, which is $495. And what you see is a legitimate transaction for $5, but the bank sees a transaction for 500, of which you only got 5. How do you protect yourself, with this kind of nefarious activity going on out there, right? A couple of things you have to appreciate and understand. First thing is your data and your personal information is extremely valuable, right? And it created this paradigm that if you're not paying for it, you're not the customer, which means you are the product. And since you are the product, you have to guard that data that is yours almost fanatically and fiercely. So how do you do this? Well, a couple of things that you want to do. Limit the amount of information you share online, especially personal information. Right now, you'll find, at the job sites that you go to, they will ask you for information and you're almost duty bound to give it to them because you're looking for a job. But one of the things that many people don't do is they don't notice which fields in a form, let's say, are required versus which fields are optional. Many times, people fill out an entire form of, say, 10 fields where only 3 fields were required. Pay attention to those things. So when you go into forms, look for the fields that are required versus the fields that are optional. Another thing you want to do is if you're sharing your resume information and your resume has a whole lot of information about you, when you're sharing your resume online, chances are you may go to 4, 5, 6, even 10 different job-seeking sites and share your resume. But whenever you get a job or get the job that you're searching for from a particular site or service, go back to the other sites and take your resume off. What that means for you is you need to keep a log of where you put your resume, right? Because what you don't want to do is to always have your information there and those sites get compromised and your information gets compromised with it. Another thing that you have to do now, almost always, is make sure that the online platforms and websites that you go to are secure. And what I've tried to do here is to show you the difference between the two. Most times when you go to websites, you simply type www. whatever the site name is, .com or .net or .org. A lot of times you don't take note of the characters that are before that. So to make sure that a site is secure, you'll always see a padlock in the very beginning of the URL area, and it must always say HTTPS, the S being secure, instead of HTTP. Always look for that padlock because that is what lets you know that the site is secure. Why is this important? Because any information that you're providing to that site, including your password, the site is not secure, that information is being sent to that site in what's called clear text, which means if you know what you're doing, anybody can actually see that information, including your password. Something else that you want to look out for is short URLs. It's a trend that started a couple years ago, where you had websites with very, very, very long URLs and paths. So what was done was they created these very interesting shortening schemes for URLs. They're used a lot in emails and in other communiques. The thing about it is, unless you know where that link is taking you, you're at risk. So what I tend to recommend sometimes is, if you're unsure, almost always, use something like a short URL checker, and it will tell you exactly where you're going. All right, so what to look for if you want to protect yourself online. Look out for unsolicited emails. Look out for job interviews that you didn't apply for. If you didn't apply for the job, then there's no reason why they're supposed to be communicating with you about the job. This one's a little tricky sometimes. Look out for emails that are different in the email address from the address of the company. Look out for emails where there are typos, errors. Look out for postings or emails that come back to you where you're required to pay some money to benefit from the work that you're applying for. And something that's very critical here is these kinds of postings and requests can come from legitimate platforms. I've seen where Freelancer, Elance, and so on, I've had postings from employers where they are not really legit, but they're using the platform to fleece money from different people who are looking for jobs. So mindful of those postings where you're required to spend money to sometimes get a startup kit. No, if there is a need to get a startup kit and you're going to be paid by this institution, tell them to take it out of your first check. Okay. And look out for work at home scams. A lot of them are there. And again, they take the form of postings where, we're going to pay you to work from home, but you have to spend some money with us. First, let me run through a couple of do's and don'ts when you're functioning in this space. First big one, don't use simple passwords. Don't use passwords of family members' birthdays. Don't use the word password. Don't talk about your favorite football team in your password or your favorite Formula One team or anything like that. And let me tell you why. A lot of that information can be gained from your social media accounts. A lot of people put their age, and a lot of people's family members are featured in pictures and tagged and so on. So nefarious characters look at these things, formulating a dictionary of possible passwords for you. So don't use these items for passwords at all. Don't use your pet's name. Don't use your business name, those kinds of things. Obviously, you don't want to share your passwords with other people because you don't know what happens to it after it gets into their hands. Again, don't open emails that you're not sure of. Don't share too much personal information online. Again, don't click on links that are suspicious. Even images. One of the things that you want to do in configuring even your email programs, if you're not using the web-based ones, is to the email programs do not download or open images unless I tell you to. And a lot of the email programs allow you to do that. Here's a big one. A lot of us are remote and mobile workers, so we tend to work in, coffee shops or co-working spaces and so on. Do not, and a lot of them have Wi-Fi services as a convenience and an attraction, but it's also a security risk. So do not do sensitive business transactions on public Wi-Fi. Okay, just don't do it. And something that you should also not do is, if you go to a place regularly, most times when you set up your Wi-Fi connection at this place, you would say connect automatically when you go to that place. Don't do that, because situations where nefarious players can set up a Wi-Fi network using the same name as some of these popular hangouts, and your computer doesn't know physically where it is, but once it sees a name that is familiar, it just automatically connects to that, and then interesting things can happen after that. But from time to time, you may need to do a quick, sensitive transaction, where you are. If you're finding that you may need to do that, always ensure that you have VPN software on your machine and it is enabled all the time. Now, what is VPN software? VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. Okay. What it does is whenever you connect to any sort of network or Wi-Fi, it encrypts all the information that goes between your machine and the internet. This way, nefarious characters can't snoop and get your passwords or your username or any information for that matter. Here are a couple of things that you can do to also protect yourself. There's a very interesting service that's out there called Have I Been Pawned? What that service does is it allows you to check to see if your email, which is normally what you use to access sites, has been compromised in a known data breach. So if you go to this site, haveibeenpawned.com, simply ask you to put your email address in, and it will show you where your email address existed on a platform or site that has been compromised. And what that allows you to do is then determine if you want to go to that site and change your password. Next thing that you want to do is use multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication. What that means is when you give a password to access a site, you're required now to do a second authentication, which may come up on your phone and require you to enter a secondary number, or site may send you a code and say, before you gain access to the site, please enter this code, and that code is either sent to your email address or a device that you have said you will be in possession of. Of course, when you're surfing and using, upwards of 20, 30 sites, when somebody recommends that you use a different password for each one, it's just simply not practical and humanly possible to remember all those passwords. So one of the things that you can do is use password managers, which are secure ways of creating very complex passwords and storing them so that you don't have to remember them or write them down. And next thing that I strongly recommend that you do is, if possible, encrypt your devices or your data where possible. For those of you who use Windows or use the Macs and so on, there's software that you can install on them that will encrypt your files or encrypt the entire device, so that if your device is stolen, those who have stolen your device can't get access to your sensitive files unless they know your encryption, decryption password. Most times it includes security updates. So if you have Windows, every Tuesday Microsoft puts out updates for their Windows platform. Even if you have your mobile phone, if it's an iPhone or an Android phone, always try to make sure that both the phone and the software that exists on the phone is always the latest version or latest update of that software, because many times there are security updates in there and vulnerability updates that are very important. Install internet security software on your devices, right? So you can get a lot of these out there from, you know, Symantec, McAfee, AVG, ESET, a whole bunch of them. But what you want to ensure is that these internet security software have antivirus, anti-malware, anti-ransomware, web protection, email protection, firewalls in some instances, even VPN software. Most of them, they cost, you know, in the range of probably $30 to $80. They're worth the money because they protect your data while you are functioning online. So with that said, that's, you know, my more than 2 cents. Feel free to pose any questions, here to answer. And let me thank Cordel and the team for inviting me to present to you today.
Wow, thank you so much, Trevor. We couldn't have asked for a better person and a more comprehensive summary of this issue. I have taken away from this 2 options. One is to be very, very, very scared. The other is to be empowered.
Yes.
And I am leaning to the side of empowered. This is a presentation which is going to be viewed multiple times, both presentations. This is such great public service you're doing, particularly in the COVID period. And we want to thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedules. Kadia, Francis, and Trevor, Forrest. A lot of information which we hope you, the viewers, found to be valuable. The Broadcasting Commission and UNESCO are collaborating on these series to help people get connected and find some direction in these uncertain times. As you heard in the presentations, particularly at Trevor's, remember to use the online space carefully. There's been an alarming prevalence of fake news, online scamming, and security breaches. We want to thank the presenters for having agreed to stay on for an additional 30 minutes to take your questions. We hope to see you again for the next webinar. Thank you and stay safe.